What if Oscar Piastri's accident was not a simple driver error, but the first sign of a much more serious problem within McLaren? Because what seemed like a minor incident before the race has ended up setting off all the alarms in Formula One. The FIA is already analyzing the car's data after discovering that, just at the moment of the crash, the car released an unexpected amount of electrical power that Piastri himself did not anticipate. A situation that could be related to the behavior of the new hybrid system and that now puts McLaren under enormous technical pressure while the engineers review every detail of the accident to understand if we are facing a simple error or a problem that could change the development of the season. Oscar Piastri's accident has ceased to be simply a strange anecdote before the start to become one of the most talked about topics within the Formula One paddock. And the more the data from the incident that occurred in Albert Park is analyzed, the more evident it becomes that what happened could hide a much deeper problem than it seemed at first. It all happened at a seemingly routine moment, during the journey to the starting grid, a phase in which drivers usually focus on warming up the tires, preparing the brakes and ensuring that all the car's systems are working correctly before the start of the race. However, what should have been a simple preliminary procedure ended up becoming a critical moment when Piastri's McLaren suddenly lost control in an area where the driver had already passed several times during the weekend without any complications. At that point on the circuit, the Australian crossed one of the curbs while trying to accelerate progressively to raise the temperature of the tires, but at that moment the car reacted in a completely unexpected way. As Piastri himself explained after the accident, the car's hybrid system delivered around 100 additional kilowatts of electrical power just at the moment when the rear wheels had very little grip due to the low temperatures of the asphalt and tires. That release of energy was much greater than the driver anticipated at that particular point on the track, causing an extremely abrupt loss of traction that ended up sending the car into the wall before the Grand Prix even officially began. What makes this situation even more intriguing is that the pilot himself had already noticed strange behaviors in the energy system minutes before the accident. During his exit from the pits, he had reported problems related to the battery, which indicated that something was not working normally in the car's hybrid system. Although it did not seem like a critical problem at the time, that irregularity could have been the first sign that the power management system was not responding in a completely predictable way, something that ended up manifesting itself in the worst possible way just when the pilot needed maximum precision in power delivery. From the team's point of view, Andrea Stella was one of the first to explain that the accident cannot be understood as a single isolated failure, but as a combination of factors that coincided at the least opportune moment. First were the extremely cold tires, a situation that drastically reduces the level of grip available and means that any sudden increase in power can cause immediate skidding. Added to this was the use of the piano, which in itself can already generate small losses of traction even when conditions are ideal. And finally, there was the element that is currently generating the most debate within the paddock: the way in which the hybrid system deployed electrical energy in a phase of the circuit where the car was already at the limit of the available grip. This last aspect is precisely what has led the FIA to carefully review all the telemetry of the incident. When a major accident occurs during the formation lap or the journey to the grid, the Federation usually analyzes all the car data to rule out safety failures or technical irregularities. In this specific case, engineers are studying how the power unit behaved and whether the electrical deployment system could have released energy more aggressively than the pilot expected, something that could be related to the characteristics of current hybrid systems. And this is where the story starts to get really interesting, because several engineers within Formula One had already warned that new hybrid power systems can generate extremely strong power spikes when the battery is fully charged and the driver applies throttle in low grip conditions. If this behavior is not managed with absolute precision, the car can become unpredictable during the acceleration phase, especially when the driver is traversing curbs or areas where grip is limited. The Piastri incident could be the first public demonstration of that technical risk that some teams had already feared since the start of the season. For McLaren, this situation comes at a particularly delicate time. The British team had just established itself as one of the strongest structures in the championship after its impressive technical resurgence in recent years, a process that even led them to win the Constructors' Championship recently thanks to very effective aerodynamic development and the consistency of its driver lineup. However, an incident like this inevitably raises uncomfortable questions about the car's behavior and whether the car's energy management system is working exactly as it should under all possible conditions. And while the engineers continue to analyze each parameter of the car to reconstruct what happened in Albert Park second by second, the rest of the paddock observes with enormous interest what this investigation may reveal. Because if it is finally confirmed that the accident was caused by an unexpected delivery of power from the hybrid system, The problem could go far beyond a simple driving error or a bad combination of factors. It could become the start of a much larger technical debate about how electrical systems should be managed in modern Formula One and whether current regulations allow for situations where the car's behavior may become too difficult to anticipate even for top-level drivers. As McLaren engineers and FIA technicians analyze every line of telemetry from the accident, a much more disturbing question begins to arise within the paddock. What if the problem that caused Oscar Piastri's crash is not unique to that moment or that circuit, but a direct consequence of how Formula One's hybrid systems currently work? Because as the seconds before the impact are reconstructed, everything indicates that the behavior of the car was not completely predictable even for the driver himself, something that in a category where every detail is controlled to the millimeter is extremely worrying. Preliminary data analyzed by engineers reveal that the electrical deployment system released a power spike at a particularly delicate moment in piloting. As the car crossed the curb with the tires still cold and with limited grip, the sudden increase in energy caused a violent reaction in the rear of the car, something that Piastri did not expect at that point in the circuit. The problem with this type of situation is that, unlike a simple excess of accelerator by the pilot, the behavior of the hybrid system can vary depending on the state of charge of the battery, the energy maps, and how the software decides to release that additional power in each acceleration phase. This opens up a much broader technical discussion within Formula One. Current hybrid systems are designed to provide large amounts of electrical power that complement the combustion engine, making single-seaters extremely efficient and fast machines. However, that extra power can also become a double-edged sword when unleashed in situations where the car doesn't have enough traction to handle it. If energy deployment is not managed with absolute precision, the result can be exactly what happened with Piastri: an instantaneous loss of control that not even an elite pilot can correct in time. For that reason, the FIA is not only reviewing the accident as an isolated incident, but also as a possible indication that the current rules on the delivery of electrical power may need adjustments. Some engineers within the paddock have long pointed out that the regulation allows scenarios where the hybrid system can deliver large amounts of power very aggressively when the battery is fully charged. In ideal conditions, this translates into brutal acceleration, but when the car is on a slab, with cold tires, or with delicate asphalt conditions, that same power can transform the car into something extremely difficult to control. In this case, the key is in the behavior of the hybrid system and how the electrical power is released when the car is in low-grip situations. Modern Formula One relies heavily on these energy systems to achieve impressive levels of performance, but that same technological complexity can lead to behaviors that are difficult to anticipate when multiple variables come into play at the same time. The state of the battery, the way the software manages power delivery, tire temperature, and track conditions can completely alter the way the car responds to the throttle. When all these factors coincide at a critical moment, the pilot's reaction margin is practically reduced to zero. For McLaren, the challenge now is twofold. On the one hand, they must collaborate with the FIA to clarify exactly what happened at that moment, providing all the necessary data to reconstruct the behavior of the car second by second. On the other hand, they must ensure that the incident does not affect the development of their car or the confidence of their drivers in the hybrid system, something essential in a season where each point can make the difference in the fight for the championship. We must not forget that the British team enters this campaign after having established itself as one of the strongest teams on the grid, the result of a technical reconstruction process that culminated in its return to the top of the championship in recent years. These types of episodes demonstrate the extent to which today's Formula One is in an extremely delicate balance between performance, control, and technology. Modern single-seaters are incredibly complex machines where each system is designed to operate at the absolute limit of what is allowed by the regulations. However, when one of these systems, such as the deployment of electrical energy, acts in a slightly different way than expected, the consequences can appear in a matter of seconds and at the least expected moment. For McLaren, the immediate objective will be to close any technical doubts and demonstrate that the car's behavior is within the normal parameters of the regulations. The British team knows that any suspicion or irregularity can trigger deeper reviews by the FIA, something that could affect the development of the car in the midst of a competitive struggle. And in a grid where the differences between teams are increasingly smaller, any unexpected technical adjustment can completely alter the balance of the championship. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.